welcome back. This is Chicken Philosophy, Carl Jung's Black Books, Part 48, in which I will continue reading Carl Jung's Black Books, picking up where the previous one of us left off. Editor Edward, what is this?
I just feel like I needed to clarify on account of the fact that these days, in the pop culture of the younger folks, Carl Jung is something that a lot of people are only becoming aware of because he is made reference to by Jordan Peterson. Whereas, as you know, our grandfather, Edward, for whom at least I'm named, was, practicing Jungian psychotherapy, or, he was undergoing that kind of working, at least as far back as the late 50s. I know there was a story that took place in 1961 that involved his Jungian process. But yeah, it's something that you and I, Gwydion, grew up with and related to magic and religion in terms of Jungian concepts and ideas and all of that from the time that we were very young, back in the mid-'80s, if not before. And so that plus the fact that I'm really not into Jordan Peterson, and if anybody wants to ask me, like, well, why not? What is it about him that you don't like? Then I would invite you to check out this 2.5 hour long video from Some More News. I resonate with basically everything that Cody says in that episode. So yeah, that's basically a long-winded way of just saying that I wanted to go on record here because I think that the people who randomly find their way here, at least especially the younger ones, are becoming interested in Carl Jung by way of Jordan Peterson, and I just kind of wanted to clarify for the record that I am not someone who is interested in Carl Jung because of any kind of affiliation or interest in Jordan Peterson. Quite the opposite. I am interested in Carl Jung in spite of the fact that Jordan Peterson is a fan of Carl Jung.
Makes sense. All right. All right. So, I almost forgot. Editor Edward, it's a little distracting. I think we've made our point. All right. Let's see. As we do at the beginning of the Carl Jung episodes, there are several books that we read here on Chicken Philosophy, rotating as the wheel turns. And there's different little things that different people of the three of us do when a certain book comes up. But one thing that all three of us do when Carl Jung's Black Books comes up is we pull a rune and we stick it right up here, and then we read about it in this trusty little book my dad gave me 30 years ago. So first, the name of the rune is, where the heck is it? It is Manaz. And the English is the self. Oh, how cool. All right. Interesting. Right. Yeah, interesting. It's man, woman, the human race. It seems like it made more sense when it was just the self, but okay, man, woman, the human race. All right, so that's our theme for today, and without further ado, I'm gonna light some incense. This is Potala incense, so that the office here will smell like a Tibetan temple. Hey, Editor Edward, would you? Yeah, thank things. Might as well. In fact, just rotate through a bunch of them just to kind of, I don't know, let people know whether they should, love us or hate us based on which ones we choose. I'm not really one for polarization, generally speaking. I think that it's a problem. But speaking of polarization, there we go. How do you feel about that one? Comment below. Engagement. So let's do one more. Yeah. People should have the right to be who they are inside and express it without fear of being assaulted in the street or losing their job or that kind of thing. JK. I don't mean just kidding. I'm speaking directly at the author of. All right. Anyway, now that they're gone, okay. Thank you. I'm not like shooing away the flag. I'm just saying let's clear up the screen so we can focus on. That's a tiger, by the way. He lost his stripes a few years ago. Cheers. Going with the Tibetan theme. All right. I think we've done enough damage in this intro. Let's go ahead and get to it. By the way, if this is your first time watching and you haven't clicked away and you would like to start at the beginning, let me advise you that the very first episode is kind of nice because I was still being very serious. And I give you a nice introduction about myself and why I want to read Carl Jung, starting about halfway through the episode. But generally speaking, like the first 20 or 30, the earlier episodes aren't as good quality. The sound quality, the visual, just everything about it is kind of less. But that all being said, if you want to start at the beginning of the Carl Jung Black Books, with book one. Book one is like a general overview of the Black Books, and then book two is where you really get into like the journal entries, which is, I'm enjoying that because it's sort of like episodic in a way. I try to read one per episode, even if they're short. I just make it a short episode if they're short. And anyway, so you can navigate the playlist. You don't necessarily need to start with the first one, but you can. Or you can jump in the middle. You can pick the thumbnail that looks most interesting. Go ahead and click right there. That's the playlist. All right. And Editor Edward, what music did you choose for this? That's Django Reinhardt. Great movie, but different Django. This is Sultan of Swing, full album, the instrumental parts. All right. January 10th. 1914. It appears as if something has been achieved through this memorable event. But it is incalculable where this will all lead. I hardly dare say that Is-Du-Bars, by the way, at the end of the previous one, when Editor Edward jumped in to give his analysis of the tarot cards, he kept calling him Isildur, or something like that, which I think is like a Lord of the Rings thing or something. It's Is-Du-Bar. It's the ancient name of Gilgamesh, apparently. All right. I hardly dare say that Is-Du-Bar's fate is grotesque and tragic, for that is what our most sacred life is. Father Vischer's, parentheses, bracket parentheses, and bracket parentheses, bracket parentheses, Ener, rhymes with Scener? No, I haven't. And bracket parentheses and parentheses. So anyway, ouch, Ener, but I think Carl Jung wrote A-E, and Sonu, thank you, Sonu, filled out the rest in the bracket parentheses is what's going on there. Continuing. Is the first attempt to elevate this truth to a system. Yeah, that was something I didn't quite pick up on when I was reading it, or when BT was reading it, or whatever, or even Edward in his editing analysis of the tarot card and the connections, is, he rescued this old hero, this old god, if you will, this old myth, and brought it to the West, brought it to the modern world by calling it a fantasy. See? That's what Carl Jung did. Rather than have to throw all this stuff away, we can keep it, and we can look at it in a different light by considering it a fantasy without, that implied, like, therefore you shouldn't pay attention to it. There's so many, like, fictions and, archetypes. I mean, these are all kind of like post-Jung. These are the things that he coined. So, I mean, I think that a person can decide day to day, I know I do, on what level they want to relate to ancient beings or mythical beings or great teachers of the past or gods or goddesses, or I've got so many around me, I'm looking at them, contemplating grabbing one and holding it to the screen, but I haven't decided to do that. So we get to keep them in the modern world and look at them as Jungian archetypes in the collective unconscious, rather than gods in heaven or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Or Mount Olympus. Okay, I'll just keep reading. All right, yes. He rightly deserves a place among the immortals. What lies in the middle is the truth. It has many faces. A hero with 1,000 faces? No. One is certainly comical, another sad, a third evil, a fourth tragic, a fifth funny, a sixth is a grimace, and so forth. Train says hi. Should one of these faces become particularly obtrusive, we thus recognize that we have deviated from certain truth and approach an extreme that constitutes a definite impasse should we decide to pursue that route. It is a murderous task to write the wisdom of real life, particularly if one has committed many years to serious scientific research. What proves to be most difficult is to grasp the playfulness of life. Parentheses, the childish, so to speak, end parentheses. All the manifold sides of life, the great, the beautiful, the serious, the black, the devilish, the good, the ridiculous, the grotesque, are fields of application which each strive, cross out strive. Let's, thank you, Editor Edward. He didn't mean it that way. There was a different word that he used when he was referring to that group of people. Anyway, it was the word apparently more common in his day and age that I don't want to repeat, because these days it just doesn't, it sounds horribly wrong. Okay, I think that's enough, Editor. Thank you. Yes, tends to wholly absorb the beholder or describer. So yeah, he's talking about the black as in like the dark, as in like the evil or the shadowy. I mean, Carl Jung was the one who said, embrace your shadow, and I think that's kind of what he's talking about when he means the black. So he embrace Istubar. He's embracing Istubar, even though sometimes he's evil and a villain and black, which is why some folks come on here and comment saying Carl Jung is a Satan worshiper, and I don't allow the comments to go through because I'm an asshole. Anyway, where were we? Tend to wholly absorb. Our time requires something capable of regulating the mind, just as the concrete world has expanded from the limitedness of the ancient human, cross out human, outlook to the immeasurable diversity of our modern outlook. The world of intellectual possibilities has developed to unfathomable diversity, infinitely long Distances, cross out distances, paths paved with thousands of thick volumes lead from one specialization to another. Soon, no one will be able to walk down these paths anymore. Yeah, and then only specialists will remain. More than ever, we require the living truth of the life of the mind, of something capable of providing firm guidance. Oh, Carl, if you only knew, if you only knew. So then there's the line indicating that, usually it indicates that now we're going into his active imagination. So that was just his general reflection, what he wanted to say, what was on his mind that day. And now he's going to tell us what he dreamed that night, I guess. So let's get to it. In just a moment. How's everybody doing? Everybody doing good? Everybody enjoying the episode? Me too. All right. Let's get to it. Going under. At night, when everything calmed down, I put my hand into my pocket and retrieved the egg. It was a real egg with a white, hard shell. For those who missed the previous episode, he turned the giant into an egg. He turned Istubar into the size of an egg so that they could fit through the door together. And he was able to carry him because he was lighter than a feather, because he admitted he was a fantasy, where before, when he was a god or an ancient hero or whatever, he was too heavy, and Carl Jung couldn't lift him to take him into the modern world. See? It's kind of interesting. It's like, did he know this was a metaphor for what he was doing or what he was going to do while it was happening? Or was it legitimately his subconscious mind communicating to him in symbols that he would later interpret and do that very thing? I don't know. I placed it on the rug, the egg, in the middle of the room and carefully opened it. Something resembling smoke rises up from it to the ceiling of the room, and suddenly Istubar's frame is standing before me, enormous and complete. His limbs are also whole, with a W, and I find no trace of lameness on him. It's as if he had awoken from a deep sleep. Istubar, where am I? How narrow it is here, and how dark and how cool? ? Am I in the grave? Where was I? It seemed to me as if I had been outside in the universe. Over and under me was a black cross out of black. The words, he crossed them out when he was writing. An endlessly black, star-glittering sky, and I was in a passion of unspeakable yearning. Streams of fire broke from my radiating body. I surged through blazing flames. I swam in a sea that wrapped me in the living fires, full of light, full of longing, full of eternity. I was ancient and perpetually renewing myself, swirling down from the heights to the depths, and world glowing from the depths to the heights, hovering around myself amidst fiery glowing clouds, as raining embers beating down like the foam of the surf, engulfing myself in stifling heat, suddenly, once again, blazing up glowing white, embracing and rejecting myself in an enormous game. Where was I? I was completely sun. That's S-U-N. O Istubar, divine one, how wonderful, you are healed. Istubar, healed? Was I ever sick? Who speaks of sickness? I was the sun, completely sun. I am the sun. An inexpressible light breaks from his entire body, a light that my eyes cannot grasp. I must cover my face so as not to turn blind. I cast my face to the ground as the cover does not protect my eyes. Quote, you are the sun, the eternal light, most powerful one. Forgive me for carrying you. Bracket parentheses, end quote, end bracket parentheses. Thank you, Sonu. Everything is quiet and dark. I look around me. The empty eggshell is lying on the rug. I feel myself. The furniture, the walls, everything is as usual, utterly plain and utterly real. I would like to say that everything around me has turned to gold, but it is not true. Everything is as it always has been. Here reigned the light of life, immeasurable and overpowering, question mark. Help solve these riddles, whoever can. My head is spinning. Is this the path of life? That's the end of that entry. This is an example of one that's a little shorter. And Editor Edward, let's have one more. See, I remember seeing this, gosh, maybe around 1990 originally, and yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, it's like the word tolerance. It's like when you tolerate somebody, it just means that even though you're freaking annoyed by them, you allow them to exist because it would be illegal to strangle them, kind of thing, like coexist. Okay, you exist, I exist, whatever. It's not quite love, is it? It's not quite harmony, is it? But I guess it's a step, in the right direction, away from being an asshole, away from, thinking my way or the highway, everyone else is going to burn in hell kind of thing. But then it's a paradox. I remember when I was taking Hebrew, there was a guy, I think he was an evangelical Christian. And there was me, and I was Catholic at the time. And then, of course, our Hebrew teacher was Jewish. And we were taking Hebrew for our own Christian-y reasons. Mine was more Kabbalah-related, Golden Dawn-related more. That was kind of more my center. I had joined the Catholic Church as part of a conspiracy to try to bring peace to the Middle East. Anyway, it made sense at the time, barely. And he was like very open about, he's like, I believe as part of my faith that both of you will go to hell. You for being Catholic and, being a papist, and you for not accepting Jesus Christ as your personal savior. But I love you. We're commanded to love our neighbor, and so I do my best. And so we had this like civil relation. I mean, I think there was maybe one or two classes, like these hour-long classes that we had together, where mostly we were focused on like the Hebrew grammar, like, okay, examining our homework that we did and learning something new and getting our assignment for whatever. But it was a very interesting conversation. And that's kind of like, I guess, coexist. Is like, if a person is going to not think that you're going to go to hell, then they would have to step out of what might be their comfort zone. They would have to step out of what they might consider a very important position that they're taking, which is their faith, which is their community, which is their groupthink, But that was an example of a person who was able to have a civil conversation. And probably we were also civil. We were also, okay, that's interesting. You really think that? You really think that? Huh. And he's like, yeah, I feel pity for you, and I wish that you would accept, the true light. And we were like, okay, he's like, I'm not gonna like evangelize right now, but that's how I feel. And we were like, all right. And I guess, that's a step. That's coexist, for some folks. It might be too much to ask people, entrenched in whatever beliefs or whatever culture to step outside, or take 1 foot outside, step 1 foot toward the idea of considering their own their thought process as being, from like a Jungian perspective, one way of looking at things, or one group think within a greater collective unconscious. For them that might be to spit upon and reject and accept this new paradigm, or whatever. And then for someone who's a total atheist who thinks that anybody who believes anything is horseshit, I mean, the ones that talk, the ones that you hear, online, for instance, they're very vocal about the fact that, like, they think that people are idiots. They look down on people who, quote, believe in things, whether it be astrology or crystals or Jesus or Buddha or Buddhism or meditation, or, some of them might be like, well, yoga has some health benefits, but, I just don't like when people want to bring Sanskrit into it or whatever. They have there are non-tolerant ones, and there are tolerant ones, just as there are evangelical Christians. Just giving those two examples. Obviously, there's many examples around the world. There's people who have their opinions about other groups that they're not in, and then keep their opinions to themselves so that they can relate responsibly in society, and just kind of like, speak the words of, oh, no, it's just different. It's not better or worse, but inside they think it's better or worse. That's like how Trevor Noah talks about that he prefers the racism in South Africa. Or some people talk about they prefer the racism in the southern states as opposed to the racism in, like, Massachusetts or, like, the north or whatever. These liberal places where they secretly look down on you and they secretly vote, against your demographic and its ability to better itself in the world or become more prosperous. But with their mouth, they act like they speak the words of somebody who loves everybody equally and doesn't see any. You're supposed to see the differences. It used to be be colorblind. There was a song. It was a hit for a little while, and then saying you're colorblind became a cringe thing, and so you're supposed to see, know, acknowledge the differences, acknowledge your ignorance about the other, and seek to, learn, and all this stuff. I don't know why I'm talking about all this, just to fill time, I guess. And for the people who saw the Meccan Revelation Part 25 yesterday, kind of processing my own words. That's kind of part of this is kind of my own, I've mentioned it before, this chicken philosophy thing is a little bit like my own black books. In other words, the messy, disorganized, dirty process by which I intentionally just kind of like let out whatever's going to come out of my mouth, with very little, if any, second thought or censorship or consideration. And then I am forced to look at it and listen to it and think about it and dream about it and wake up the next morning thinking about one or two aspects of it and, consider it and that kind of thing. And so, anyway, any more bumper stickers I should throw up on the screen? Just kidding, I don't have kids. That was a popular one in the 80s. I can't think of any other bumper stickers to put up right now. But, yeah, this is the bumper sticker episode. So, there it is. Okay, well, anyway, for those who are still here, cheers. If you want to, feel free to give a like and subscribe if you want to. And feel free to comment below. The comments are set to hold. Mostly what that is, the real reason why that is, I'll just be upfront with you about it, is when the comments are automatically approved, then I see it as soon as I turn on the computer, as soon as I log into YouTube, and or I get an email. So literally when I wake up in the morning, I start the water, I haven't even had my first sip of coffee yet, and I look at my phone and there's an email and I click it and it says, you've received a comment. And then I get tempted and I click it and it's like, you motherfucker, how could you, blah, 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 you're a piece of shit and you're ugly and you're full of yourself and stop making these fucking videos. And then it kind of fucks with my day. So I did the setting where it holds all comments. And then so after I've had my coffee and, at a certain point, a few hours into the day, then I feel I'm ready. And then I check to see if there's any comments that need approval. And then if there's someone that's being very bad vibey, to be honest, I'm not interested in I'm like not that into, some people like having negative feedback so that they can, that's more engagement for the algorithm and stuff like that. I'm just not into it. So if somebody's, saying some very negative horse shit, I don't approve it. But if, it's like not like you have to kiss my ass to get your comment approved. If you point something out, or if you have some constructive criticism, perhaps, something you said here was actually factually incorrect because this, it's like, okay, thank you. So that's what's going on there. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to make this episode a little closer to a half an hour, and so I figured I'd just let my mouth rattle and see what came out. Because, again, that's part of the experiment here. It's not necessarily a normal use of having a YouTube channel, but it's what I've decided to do with this particular channel. There are many channels that I have that aren't like this. If you're interested, then there's a channel whose sole purpose is to put on display most of my channels. And so if you go to that channel and look at the channel, and then you'll see on the channel's main page, you'll see a section that says my YouTube channels. And if there's like an arrow on the right, so it shows like 6 of them, I think. But if you click the arrow on the right, there's like 3 more. And then there's videos underneath that says videos. And each video, you might notice, lines up with one of the channels. So there's a video, like usually a short video that can kind of give like an example or an introduction to each of the channels. So, and Chicken Philosophy is the first one on there. But there's obviously 8 others. So that channel is called Pymander Aquarian. You can click there, find all my channels if you're interested. And all right, well, I hope that you enjoyed. All right, I'm just gonna do this.